In the bustling Sicilian port of Messina, Governor Leonato's household prepares to welcome some very important guests fresh off a recent military campaign. Among them is the charming Don Pedro, who is the Prince of Aragon, and is accompanied by an entourage of two very different men. Claudio is a young lord whose bravery on the battlefield won him high praise, while the other is Benedick, a seasoned soldier with a sharp wit and an even sharper tongue, especially when crossing verbal swords with Leonato's niece, Beatrice, who is just as witty if not more than her sparring partner. But not everyone who arrives has good intentions. Don Pedro's illegitimate brother Don John is also among the party, a broody man who is full of resentment and anger towards his brother, and pretty much anyone who is happy and successful in general. As the guests arrive, Leonato's household, including his beautiful daughter Hero, come out to meet them, and from the moment Claudio lays eyes on her, he falls head over heels in love. Don Pedro quickly notices his friend is smitten, and decides to step in as a matchmaker, promising to help him win Hero's heart. Meanwhile, Beatrice and Benedick have continued their ongoing battle of wits, each determined to have the last jab at the other. To everyone around them, it is obvious that they don't really hate each other, and that their banter is fueled by something else. But since Beatrice and Benedick both loudly proclaim that they have no interest in love or marriage, the chances of them getting together seem very far-fetched. From the sidelines of these scenes, however, the sulky Don John is growing restless with all the happiness and love floating around. His bitterness towards his brother has festered so much that he is even willing to take out his hate on his companions, and the newly lovesick Claudio seems like a perfect target. At a grand masked ball that evening, Don Pedro's matchmaking plans take place with perfect timing. Because everyone is wearing masks, he is able to disguise himself as Claudio and woo Hero in his name, since the man himself is too nervous to do it in person. Don Pedro's charms seem to do the trick, as by the end of the night, Claudio and Hero are engaged to be married, without him having to lift a finger, and the whole of Messina is abuzz with preparations for their upcoming wedding. With one matchmaking attempt successfully completed, Don Pedro is keen to continue his streak, and turns his eye towards Benedick and Beatrice. But for this plot, he needs the help of their friends and family, involving Leonato, Hero, her maid Margaret, and Claudio in a little theater. They stage a conversation between Don Pedro, Leonato, and Claudio, within earshot Benedick, hyping up Beatrice's supposed love for him, and pretending to be amazed that he hasn't picked up on it. From his hiding place, Benedick takes the bait, and his perception of Beatrice starts to shift almost immediately. Not long after, Hero and Margaret stage a similar scene for Beatrice, making sure that she can overhear a conversation between them about Benedick's secret devotion to her and his fear of being rejected if he confesses his love. She is astonished at first, but as the idea settles in her mind, she too begins to soften towards her former opponent. But all this romance is making one man sick. Don John is growing increasingly annoyed with the favor shown by his brother to Claudio, while he remains at a lowly status because he was born out of wedlock. He finds a scheming companion in Baracchio, one of his associates who is keen to create mischief, and together they come up with a plan to hit Claudio where it hurts the most, by destroying his trust in Hero. Baracchio arranges a late-night meeting with Margaret, Hero's maid, at the bedroom window of her mistress. He begins to speak to her as if she was Hero, using her name and lots of sexual innuendo, so that it looks like they have an intimate relationship. Margaret is unaware of the larger plot, and thinks it's just some harmless banter, so she willingly plays along. Meanwhile, in the shadows, Don John carefully guides Don Pedro and Claudio to the scene, making sure they witness Hero's supposed unfaithfulness. The sight of Baracchio and the disguised Margaret talking at Hero's window leaves no room for doubt in either man's mind, and from that moment, Claudio's love for Hero turns to ice. To get revenge on her for what he thinks she has done, he is determined to not only break off the engagement, but to shame her publicly on her wedding day. On the morning of the wedding, Claudio stands before the gathered guests, simmering with hurt and anger. The innocent Hero is led unwittingly to the altar, but before their vows are spoken, Claudio lashes out. He accuses Hero of being unfaithful and refuses to take her as his wife. Shock and horror ripples through the crowd, and Hero, who is stunned and overwhelmed by the vicious lies she is hearing, collapses on the spot. Her father Leonato is understandably furious, but the friar, seeing how distressed she is, wisely suspects that there might be more to the story. They decide to let the world believe that she has died for the time being, while they try to uncover the truth and perhaps teach her accusers a lesson. Beatrice, too, has been deeply hurt and upset by the false accusations against her gentle cousin, and this crisis brings her closer to Benedick, with both of them confessing their love for one another. However, she cannot forget the injustice done to Hero, and urges her newfound suitor to challenge Claudio to a duel in order to prove his love for her. But help was about to come from a very unlikely source. Dogberry, Messina's well-meaning but hopelessly muddled constable, and his band of watchmen happened to overhear Borachio boasting about the success of his plot with Don John. And although Dogberry's confusing way of speaking almost unravels the whole investigation, Borachio and another conspirator are finally arrested and brought before Leonato. After being questioned, Borachio confesses everything, how he staged the window scene with the unwitting Margaret, and fooled Claudio under the guidance of Don John. Word of Hero's innocence spreads quickly, and it is a bitter revelation for Claudio, who realizes too late that his harsh accusations have driven an innocent woman to her grave. He is beside himself with grief, and submits himself to Leonato's judgment in an attempt to redeem himself. As a gesture of goodwill, he agrees to marry a mysterious young woman, whom Leonato says is his niece, although he's not allowed to see her face until after they are married. And Don John, whose betrayal has now been exposed, flees the scene of the crime before he can be brought to justice. On the appointed day, the guests gather for take 2 of Claudio's wedding, and the veiled bride is led into the church. True to his word, Claudio does go through with the marriage without seeing her face, but when the veil is lifted, he is stunned to see that the woman he has married looks just like Hero. Quite literally, since of course it is her. His confusion is soon cleared up, and the very much alive Hero forgives Claudio for his earlier nastiness. After seeing her cousin's happiness and innocence restored, Beatrice can't help but feel the love too, and she and Benedick agree to wed as well, though both of them insist it is only to do the other a favor. The dastardly Don John has been captured too, but even he can't put a damper on the romance in the air, and Messina is free to celebrate the 2 new couples now that peace has been restored.